Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Hops Geek News, your home for comic books, movies, and TV shows. Today, we have yet another amazing creator interview as we have Marcus Alqueres, the director of the new documentary-style superhero movie titled Warden. Trust me, you're going to want to stick around. You're going to want to watch and listen to this. And more importantly, when you're able to watch this film, it's going to be one that you're really going to enjoy. But first things first, you already know Hops Geek News on any podcasting platform, any social media platform. That's the easiest way to find us, follow us, find out what's coming out next. For instance, we do our weekly Daredevil recaps on YouTube and all of the good Comic-Con conventions that we're going to be at and where you can find us doing different events. So with that said, Lauren, hey, welcome. You're the one who turned me on to this. And so I'm going to let Lauren be the driver's seat. You get to be the driver tonight.
Woohoo! So yes, Marcus has worn many hats, our guest here today in the entertainment industry. He's been a writer, producer, editor, director, and more, including visual effects on shows like Ahsoka and Mandalorian. We are big Star Wars nerds here, so I had to give that a little bit of a mention. However, today we are talking about a very interesting and unique spin on one of the most popular genres today, and that is, of course, superheroes. So before we get into the movie Warden, Marcus, welcome. Please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do and about this movie.
Thanks, Lauren. Thanks, Matt. And thanks for having me here, the invitation. I appreciate it. My name is Marcus. I'm a director, but I come from visual effects as well. So I worked for many years in the visual effects department of a few movies, including those series you mentioned, but also 300, Rise of the Planet of the Apes. So I've been always, for a long time, involved with the blockbusters and franchise and everything. And of course, I made the leap to directing probably 12 years ago. And ever since my first work, it's called The Flying Man. Probably some people might be familiar with it because it got a little, at the time, it got like more than 20 million views, and it was talked a lot in a lot of places. It was really nice. And it was my first step into the superhero genre, and it was also a different spin in the genre, which it's pretty much what I love to do, giving different spins to familiar genres. So it was kind of a horror spin on the superhero. So you kind of you can check in the internet The Flying Man, and you see it pops on YouTube, Vimeo, everywhere. It's basically you follow the film through the perspective of a criminal. So the hero becomes a haunting figure. So that, I think, caught a lot of attention. It was nice. And, and I kept doing my own short films. At the same time, I'm directing commercials as well. So we have to pay bills sometimes. And commercials, it has this fast turnaround, which is great. So you get to learn a lot on big sets and, have different experiences. You also get to pitch a lot, which is a good skill to have as a director, trying to, finance your movie or trying to get work from studios or from the indie industry. So yeah, that's pretty much what I've been doing for the last 12 years. Of course, Mandalorian and Ahsoka came a little after I became a director. You asked me why. It was because of pandemic. Once it came, nobody could ever film anything. And I said, well, I think maybe I should look back again and just see what's going on in the VFX industry. And the VFX industry became full remote at the time. So I got this gig on Mandalorian, working remote. It was really cool. And there's a secret I never told anybody. The money I made from working on the Mandalorian, it helped me finance Warden. So
wow, that's awesome.
It was actually good timing, right? And not everything, of course. Warden was self-financed. That's another thing, and most with my time, but also I have put money from my pockets, and that's why it took a couple years, 3 years to finish, because you kind of work here and there. But yeah, pretty much most of the money I made on working Mandalorian that was used in Warden.
Well, now, having done visual effects, does that impact you and how you direct at all? Like, do you think that gives you that experience helps?
Yeah, I mean, visual effects, I worked mostly in the animation departments, right? So animating the creatures, animating the robots and Mandalorian, that kind of stuff. But also I worked in previs, which I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, but it's a process that you kind of direct the film before going to set. So you work usually with, of course, other directors and producers and studios, and you create the type of action scene they want. So you kind of work with virtual cameras, and you have the location, everything in the computer, and and then that kind of started giving me that urge to tell my own stories. But I've learned a lot about cameras, editing, working in pre-visualization. That's how I made the move, right? So for sure, it gives me I I've learned a lot from visual effects that I apply on sets. Of course, the missing link is always working with actors. That you start
Hmm.
learning that through the years. Actually working with, because visual effects, it's you and your computer, right?
Yeah.
And then
You
you
don't have
have
to deal with any
dailies.
personalities or anything. Yeah.
Yeah, you have dailies. But I mean, visual effects, I like to say it's great to start in visual effects because it gives you that kind of a feeling of collaborative work. And
Hmm.
your routine, it's like someone like your supervisor or whatever, or a director, giving you critiques every day, maybe 3 times a day. So you kind of learn to digest and know the feeling of receiving, and so in a way you become very collaborative. And as a filmmaker, that became my nature of working. You hear more people, of course you have a vision, you start from there. But I love collaborating, having different people inputs, and I think it comes from visual effects. After working
Hmm.
for so many years, you get to experience that.
Right.
That's
And I will.
really,
Go ahead.
I was just gonna, it's really interesting that you describe it that way, because I've never heard anybody describe work in visual effects. They've always said, yeah, it's collaborative, and you know what people say on the internet. But I think that's really cool that you kind of have taken something that some people could perceive as negative, which is, you're constantly getting critiqued, and then you flip that and actually use that in your, directing. And that's actually not a lot of people think to do that way.
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta always see the bright side of everything, but you always have two choices, right? It's either you're getting pissed, oh, this screwed my day, or you just think that, okay, so let's just, because I like to say visual effects about resilience in a way, because
Mm.
to approve a shot for a big film, for instance, like sometimes you go through 30, 40 reviews, right? So it's
Ugh.
all about a little detail nobody sees,
And
but you're a
perfecting it.
supervisor, or I was once a supervisor as well. So my work was to pick on people's shots as well. So you kind of, okay, this is hitting the wall here in the animation. Okay, I see this here. And you keep going until you approve. And then once you approve with your supervisor, it goes to VFX supervisor, and then it goes to the director, and then it comes back, and then you start the cycle all over again. That's why it's expensive, because you sometimes you work in a show for 9 months, and you get to produce a minute
Yeah.
of the film.
Wow.
So
Wow.
that's the kind of that's why I say it's about resilience. So you kind of train that side of um, being resilient too.
Right, which is just great quality in life too to be able to do that. But with the visual effects, I will say in Warden, before we go into it, I felt like they were so good and they looked so real. And I felt like that
Yeah.
was so important because of the type of story that this is, because of the realness that it was. So, can you give us a little introduction about Warden and what it's about?
Yeah, Warden is it's a superhero film, but it's told differently from what everybody would be expecting. So it's told as a documentary, right? And to me, the root thing here is telling the most realistic superhero story, if it would happen, right, in our society as currently is, right? The current state of our society. So I don't know how it's going to be in 10 years, 20 years, but we try to make this film in a way it's current, and it feels it's a story that happens in Brazil, right? Of course, not realistically, but it happens in Brazil, but it's an international vision of that story happening in Brazil. So in a way, it's not a Brazilian film. I'm Brazilian too. So to me, it's not a Brazilian film as per se. It's more of an international story that it's, you could see that happening in many parts of the world. If that, because actually Warden was written to be shot in the US, but because pandemic, I was stuck in Brazil at the time. And I said, let's adapt this to shoot in Brazil. And funny enough, we didn't have to adapt too much. It was really, few things here and there. But the political system, the society, the way it's organized, it's very similar. Everything the Western side, in a way, it's similar. So that's kind of a reflection on society, right? It's not about sides. It's more of reflecting how people are, you got the supporters, at the same time, you got your haters, right? No matter what you do. And you got like that 30-30, and then you have the 40% that shifts from one side to another, giving the majority. Oh, you got the majority of support. Now you got the majority of reject. So we try to play with that, and so it feels familiar to people. And of course, in a way, we got inspired by the march of a tyrant. That you start like, oh, I have all good intentions, but I have a solid vision of how it is to try to make this happen. But then at one point you get lost, and you get entangled into the society system, not just society, but the political system, the authority system, and all of a sudden at one point, I guess, he doesn't know what he's doing, and the rest people will have to watch the film.
Yeah, absolutely, yes. And I love the pop culture influence you brought in. And Matt, you actually had texted me something you loved about the film with the comic books.
Oh, yeah. So something I thought you guys did really well was you wove in really cool comic book artwork, there on the setting. So you brought in what if Warden was, talking about the Metropolis. You didn't have to be, whether you're doing Metropolis or Superman on the moon, but different versions of him and Warden, and some of the way you drew the art and things. How did that come into play? How did you weave in the comic book artwork with this story?
Yeah, the script was written by Jeff Juhas, which is a great writer. Like, he's actually one of the writers of this new Amazon series called Secret Level. I think it's Secret Level, right?
Oh yeah, no, I've heard of that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's anthology of animation. Same creators as the Love, Death, Robots. So Jeff come from that experience, and he wrote the script. When I read it, and I fell in love because of this too. Kind of pays a homage to comics and the influence, and I love everything about that character, because that that professor character, Mark Metrovsky, he's the one responsible to creating that parallel between his influences as a comic book fan and everything that has been and it was an interesting reflection as well. So I thought that was one bit that I was most passionate about as well. So to me, it's the coolest part of the film, which it's gonna pay a homage to comic book fans and comic book art and comic book writers. And I think he took a little bit of that influence, but you mix with the current state of society, and it becomes something else, right?
Oh yeah.
But at the same time, yeah.
Well, and I actually jumped the gun here. I was so eager to get into Warden. I didn't ask your actual geek origin story, which we usually start with. This is what happens when Matt lets me take over, because he usually kicks off. So in The Flying Man, which I did watch, I thought it was fantastic. It was like Punisher meets a horror movie. I very much so enjoyed it. And yes, it's on YouTube. Everybody should go and check that out. So did you grow up reading comic books? Is that how you ended up in the superhero genre? Okay.
Yeah, I grew up in Brazil. Like, I've lived in Canada for many years as well, but I grew up in Brazil, which, of course, reading comic books as a kid. Of course, we had like limited sets here compared to America, for instance, in the 80s and the 90s. But yes, I read my share of comic books. Also, I love those cartoons, the X-Men, the first cartoons they had, and the first movies back in the 90s. I don't know if if you remember ever saw, but the first Hulk, Thor,
Oh yeah.
that I would watch those
Those
movies and
wonderful
record them.
costumes that they had that are
Yeah.
interesting to look on today compared to what we're able to do. It's always fun I love old movies like that.
Yeah, I used to record them and watch over and over and over a Hulk, Thor, and all those. I would be the Superman, of course. So I was always into comics and movies as well, right? And cartoons, superhero cartoons. And yeah, of course, I got all that influence from back then. But I kept on it and getting, watching the new movies, of course. But yeah, I'd say that's how I started.
Well, and I think the movie taking place in Brazil is even that much more beautiful because it shows that these American superheroes really do go international, and that this, no matter where this superhero would have been born, he would have become, or she would have become, an international
Oh yeah,
not
figure.
even that, but he chose to stay in his city too at the same time. Like he had the opportunity to go international and do all that, but he wanted to fix his home first, which I thought was really
yeah.
important. And I think that's just as much part of his origin story in this as anything else.
Yeah, and there is actually a mention in the film, right? Like even his name, Warden, it's an English name. It's not a Portuguese name, Brazilian name. So it took that name because of the international element. So we're trying to, imagine how it would actually happen. So that would make sense, right? So it's in Brazil, but he wants to maybe the second step, maybe the second film, if ever, it would be going more international, or expanding, which is how
Interesting.
actually tyrants do, right? So they
Yeah.
took over and then they expand, which is geopolitics.
Well, I think
Yep.
what you did, speaking of especially like politics and stuff, is you made it. Yeah, it's in Brazil, but like Lauren also mentioned, this is something that you could see happening anywhere because everybody wanted a piece of him. They wanted to be their friend, or advertising, or hey, come work for us, or do this or that. Even the cops were like, "How's that?" And then you really spun that into, well, who decides what a good guy is or what a bad guy is? And it was
Yeah.
very fluid in how you told that story. So this is very much a story that, yeah, it could translate internationally without question.
Yeah, that's the idea. And to us, it was always the tricky part of this film is to get the audience, because maybe the traditional superhero fan of superhero movies, they will be surprised, and
Mhm.
the other people who would never come close to a superhero film, they might dig it, but it would be a challenge to bring them to watch the film. So I mean, I think we created something that it has, and that's why I appreciate that space here, to try to make people to acquainted with this and with the concept, because we see people every day asking for a different thing. Give me a
I was
fresh
gonna say,
thing.
yeah, we're so tired of the same Marvel or whatever, and it's like, well, here's your opportunity, especially with Warden, and it's in a
Yeah.
documentary style. What made you also shoot it from the documentary aspect? So everybody has their take of this individual. What was that always the idea as well?
Yeah, actually, the script was written exactly as is. Sorry. And I always loved mockumentaries,
Yeah,
fake documentaries. I always loved them, fascinating, to be honest. And that comes from a long time. I try to watch everything. I've seen some, like, I always like glued in the screen when I get a good one. So when I read, of course, I fell in love right away, because that's like almost everything I like, fantasy, sci-fi, superhero, documentary, fake documentary, and it's a different spin to something. Um, so yes, it was thought out to be like that. Of course, before pandemic, that's when I started to. I was approached by Steve Zerling and Jeff Juhas. Like they were the ones who developed the script. Steve Zerling is a Lucasfilm veteran.
oh wow,
Like he works on with Tim Miller's company Blur.
oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like like he's also an executive on Secret Level, Love Death Robots, and he worked on Clone Wars. He worked
Mm.
on a bunch of, like, he worked for many years at Fox, so he was trying to develop something outside the studio system at the time, to do something, with more freedom. And we knew each other from the time of Flying Man, and he approached me with that script, and he had a little financing, and that was the time when COVID struck, right? And then we lost that financing, and then I took that on under my wing, say, well, I think I can produce. I'll build a company, and I'll self-produce this the way I like to film my short films. And because it was a documentary, it gave me a little bit of confidence that I thought, well, if I get 8 interviews in the can, I have a film. The rest is whatever money I have left, I'll create the coverage, which are the scenes that you see him in the city and stuff. So the more money I had, the more I could create, and the eye candy part, which everybody likes, right? But that was kind of me trying to balance, because the story is there. The story, like through the interviews, the movie, you see everything there. Now the key was how much coverage I could add to and I'm talking not just creatively, but also putting the producers and financiers hat, right? So how much I want to spend to do this, how much time I want to invest, being like at least a year and a half dedicated full time on this. So there's a little limit that where you can go to keep doing stuff, but it's never ending because you always have 1 or 2 ads. So it was that kind of balance that how we're trying to do. But yeah, it was always thought out to be a documentary that way.
Were there any?
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Lauren.
No, you're good. I keep cutting you off.
Oh, I was just going to say, you were talking about, the more challenging part was the interviews. And those were some of my favorite parts of the movie too, because it felt really personal without it gave you the sense of who this guy is without really seeing him. Then you got the shots. Did you find those to be more challenging then for you to film versus getting to put in the coverage? Or is that because, your background in visual effects, you were like, I got this part, so you were kind of worried more on one side, or was it just very seamless for you?
Well, I think, at that point, I had already a fair amount of experience directing actors, and I got like a good network of actors. And I was, for those films, of course, we were a little worried about finding the right cast, because it's like you mentioned, it's difficult. Like things people don't. It was. I'll explain a little bit. Another point that gave me confidence, which every actor, every character, they had at least 10 pages of dialogue, right? 10 to 20 pages, depending on the character, and that's a lot for an actor to read 10 pages of line. Like usually an actor go there like, okay, I have this shooting day, I'm shooting 3 pages, but I only have this and this to say, right? This one, like they had to sit for a full day.
Wow.
And every actor only had 1 day, so that was great to negotiate with the actor, because I paid their day fee. And I think only the Warden character that I had 4 days, so 5, which usually you have all cast for 20, 30 days, right? And most of the cast was just for 1 day. And they had to not read, of course, they had to memorize 20 pages of dialogue.
That's impressive.
Only a great actor can do that. I mean, they have to memorize. And of course, it's not a dialogue that it's super simple. It's a monologue, right? It's not even a dialogue. It's a monologue talking to the camera. And the other thing that helped us was that the monologues, the interviews that Jeff wrote in the page, all the actors say, my God, this is so good. I don't even need to change or put with my words. It's like just going to memorize and say it as it's written. And there was no improv. So it was all like them, because of course now it's cut, but once they gave their performance, it was like a straight cut. Like, I mean, they were speaking for minutes, and they got it memorized, everyone. So it was like, I never had any.
Wow.
So we were lucky to get, and they were all based in Brazil at the time, but we had like a British, American, French.
Yeah, I was going to say you had a good like cultural differences there. So like
Belgian.
That just happened. They all just were already in Brazil at the time then?
Yeah, they were like living and working there in the local industry. So they were like doing films. And the good thing is when you're American actor, a British actor in a foreign country, every film they need an American character, they go for you, or so they get to work a lot because there's always a TV show shooting there that there's this American character or a British character. But yeah, even the character, the actress that play Catarina, Ali Willow, she's French, but her Portuguese was so perfect that she played the Brazilian character,
Oh, wow.
which is
Yeah, I never
Warden.
would have guessed. Like,
Yeah, she's French, French American actually, and she played the Brazilian character because her Portuguese there was no accent. And she was in Brazil at the time just for 4 years, and she learned perfect Portuguese, which is
Wow.
super rare to hear. Anyway, so it was a very cool process, to be honest. And because it was pandemic, it was only me and the actor. So I built the lights, 2 cameras, and the microphone. So I was responsible for everything in the interview part. So I lit, I played with 2 cameras, and I also the microphone and monitoring with the headphone and directing. It
Right.
was
That's
kind of
unbelievable.
crazy. It was crazy, but it was super fun.
Right. Well, and if anybody's listening to hearing the Portuguese and is concerned, like, I don't want to read subtitles the whole time, it's not subtitles the whole time. There's a lot of English and there is Portuguese as well.
don't
So
be
you
lazy.
don't.
You can read for a few minutes. Jeez.
Well, there are some people who get turned off. They're like, I don't want to watch a movie that's entirely in a different language. That is not the case at all. So it's kind of like
Yeah,
Narcos. I felt like it was a good balance of two
yeah.
different languages like Narcos. So
That
don't
was
feel overwhelmed.
on purpose. Like I wanted to make an international film that I think it's 70-80% English and 20% Portuguese, only for the local news and stuff like this that I cannot do that in English,
Right. It
so
made
it
it feel
wouldn't
more
look real.
authentic. Yeah.
Yeah, but again, it's an international. All the characters they're actually supposed to be foreigners, so that's the way they see most of the characters, of course. That's the way they see the story happening from outside. So it's kind of an American or international vision, POV on what happened in Brazil at the time. So in a way, yes, it's mostly spoken English, so they won't read that many subtitles. There is a few. It kind of gives that kind of a spicy, different,
I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought it was fantastic.
Personally,
Yeah.
I love it. Yeah.
Thanks.
Now, so when and where can people expect to be able to get their hands on this film and be able to watch it? Are you taking it to different film festivals? Is it like where are you going to be
It's
shopping?
out. It's already out
Oh,
since
I thought
Friday.
you said
Nope.
since Friday.
Just
There we
came
go.
out this past weekend.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it just came out.
You can
So
rent it on Apple, YouTube, Google, and Movie Phone,
Prime,
or Fandango, which I didn't even know that was a thing. Is there
Oh, I
anywhere
didn't.
else it's streaming?
Prime,
Prime.
Prime.
Oh,
Okay.
nice.
yeah, Prime
Prime.
Video, all the cable services. There's like on-demand cable services you can find.
I didn't
But
even know
yeah,
those still
Prime,
existed.
Apple.
Nice.
Yeah, they do actually DVD as well. If you go to
Yeah,
Amazon,
I love physical media. Heck
Ah.
yeah,
yeah.
you can get a DVD.
I feel like
Believe it or not.
physical media is coming back. I feel like people are upping
Neat.
their collections again and going back out there and wanting to have. It's like when you buy the digital comic book, but you still buy the real one for your shelf kind of
Yeah,
thing.
Yeah.
yeah, it's a cycle, right? I think vinyl. You get to. I like it. I had a collection of Blu-rays
Oh
still,
yeah.
and for me, nothing streaming looks as good as the Blu-ray. When you put the Blu-ray and it looks super sharp, and at least for me,
You should get the
it's still.
Well,
extras.
it's also
Yeah,
nice
that was
because you
fun.
never know what's coming and going on streaming versus like, hey, I'm going to go to my wall and what can I pick out today? And
Yeah.
it just has a
Yeah,
special feel to it, in my opinion.
yeah. I still miss going to Blockbuster and renting
Oh
Yes.
yeah,
a
same.
film. Oh
Oh
my
man.
god! Every time, like, because in visual effects I moved a lot, right? So I also lived in New Zealand, Montreal, Toronto, and every place I went, one of the first things is where's the DVDs
Yeah,
rental.
where can I go to the movie play?
Yeah,
Yeah, like
where,
their
where I
movie.
can get the DVDs here. And unfortunately, and then I would spend like hours on the place trying to find the right movie.
Yeah.
I mean,
But it was
It's
part of the
over.
experience. Yeah, you would go to
Yeah.
Blockbuster, you'd pick up pizza, you'd go to Publix and pick up ice cream or whatever and go home. And it was a whole night. Now it's like nobody can decide what they all want to watch on streaming, and it just takes
You
Totally.
watch
forever.
the same shows over and over. Gosh, yeah, I know.
Well,
It's
yeah,
too many
exactly.
options.
Totally.
But yes, Marcus, thank you so much for coming on. Is there anywhere that people can follow you directly for any upcoming projects? Like you even hinted at possibly maybe a Warden 2 if that were to happen.
Well, so far we don't have any solid plans yet, but the Flying Man is taking a good turn because we've been developing for years. The adaptation of my short film, and now we're in a very interesting place with the script and development that it might take. Let's hope.
That's awesome. I hope it
So
does. Yeah.
hopefully I'm really excited about this one too. And hopefully next year we can get to shoot it.
Yeah, and if that does come to be, definitely reach out to us because I thought
Yeah.
that
Oh,
short
yeah.
was fantastic and it was creepy just seeing the way it was
Thanks.
done. It was very good.
I
Awesome.
thoroughly enjoyed like all of your effects. Again, everything was really smooth and nice, and it was just a pleasure, visually pleasureful, if that makes any sort of sense. And that's what really captivated me to Warden. And I hope everybody goes out there and gives this film a chance. And then also Flying Man, again, you can check out the short, which I did. And
Thanks, Matt.
it was awesome to get to watch and share. So I really appreciate you coming on and sharing this with us. And I can't wait to see
Thank
what you do
you.
next for sure.
Thank you. And yeah, it means the world to me to have this space. And, we talk because you work for so many years on something. And once you put it out, it's scary as hell. And,
Oh, yeah.
Having that space to talk about it, it's very, I appreciate it.
So is
Absolutely.
your YouTube the best place for people to follow
Yeah,
you? To stay on top of
YouTube.
this?
YouTube, Vimeo, I'm on X, Instagram. It's all open, so I guess people can. I'm not super active as I would like to. Even in my YouTube, I got like a few followers on YouTube, but I don't post that often. But every time I have something, I post it. So I'm not the guy who will be posting every week, but
that makes it
they
more
can
It's
follow.
important. Yeah.
Yeah.
And of course, Matt will put those in the show
Yeah,
notes
everything's
and
going to be in the
stuff
show
like that.
notes. Definitely check it out. It's worthwhile, everybody.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And Lauren, do you have any final thoughts before we wrap up?
No, I think we went over it, but yeah, there's a couple other shorts on there too. There was another one with bats that's made me jump scare. So there's a lot more on there. So
Vampire.
Yeah, it was creepy too.
It's a different vampire film. That's the kind of stuff I like. I like to do different stuff. It's a different take on vampires.
Yeah, so check out. Yeah, there's so many stories have been told by this day and age. Like you got to find the spins, and it's always fun to find those different takes on everything, monsters and superheroes. So
yeah,
no.
You're one of those people that complains about the same stuff out there. Go to this man's YouTube. You can find everything.
Yeah.
And then don't complain anymore because you would have no reason to complain at this point. It's very worthwhile. And if anybody out there checks it out, let us know. Drop us a line, anything, share out there with everybody. This is going to be worth your time. So hopefully people check it out. Thank you so much one more time for coming and sharing with us. And can't wait to chat again and see what you do in the future. So thanks.
Yeah, same here. Thank you.
Of course. We will talk to everybody soon. Check out our weekly episodes every Monday releasing. Cheers, everybody.